People spend years chasing respect, attention, and influence. Yet the people who seem to have all three usually spend very little time chasing anyone. Their phone rings without endless messages. Their opinions carry weight without loud arguments. Their presence changes the atmosphere without demanding the spotlight. This looks like a mystery from the outside, yet psychology offers a clear explanation. Human beings naturally place greater value on people who are emotionally steady, deeply disciplined, and difficult to replace. Value grows through consistent behavior, quiet confidence, and strong boundaries. Fear of losing someone rarely comes from dramatic words or constant reminders. It grows from realizing that a person brings something rare that cannot be found everywhere. This hidden principle quietly shapes friendships, careers, business relationships, and even family dynamics. People often overlook it because society teaches endless visibility and constant availability, while psychological research points toward a very different pattern. The people who protect their peace, manage their emotions, and develop uncommon skills often become the ones others respect the most. Their strength comes from habits built in silence, long before anyone notices the results. During this video, you will discover why calmness can become a greater source of influence than aggression, why discipline silently increases personal value, and why emotional stability changes the way people respond to you. You will learn how scarcity affects human perception without becoming cold or distant. You will understand why constant availability slowly reduces perceived importance, while healthy boundaries increase trust and respect. You will also discover the surprising reason emotionally independent people often become the hardest to forget. Several of these ideas come from well-established psychological principles that quietly shape everyday decisions. Yet very few people recognize their power until life forces the lesson upon them. Each section builds upon the last, revealing how small daily choices create a reputation that speaks long before words ever do. By the final moments, the complete picture will come together, showing why genuine value grows from character instead of performance and why lasting influence begins long before anyone offers recognition. One insight near the end connects every principle into a single mindset that separates people who constantly seek approval from people who naturally earn it. Missing that final piece leaves the entire puzzle incomplete because each habit becomes far more powerful when combined with the others. A calm mind, disciplined actions, emotional control, protected time, and rare skills create a level of personal value that cannot be copied through appearance or empty confidence alone. That is the quiet difference between temporary attention and lasting respect. This journey is about becoming someone whose presence leaves an impression because of substance rather than noise. Every lesson can be practiced, strengthened, and carried into daily life until respect becomes a natural consequence instead of a constant pursuit. Welcome to our channel, where psychology, human behavior, emotional intelligence, and self-mastery come together to reveal the hidden patterns that shape success and influence. Subscribe now and join a community committed to becoming stronger, wiser, calmer, and truly impossible to replace. The search for approval quietly shapes the lives of countless people, even when they do not realize it. It appears in small habits that seem harmless at first, checking a phone every few minutes for replies, changing opinions to match the crowd, saying yes because saying no feels uncomfortable, explaining every decision in the hope that everyone will understand. These actions often come from a simple desire to be accepted. Yet psychology shows that constant dependence on approval slowly changes the way people see you. When someone always looks for reassurance before making a decision, others begin to question that person's confidence as well. This happens because human beings naturally look for signs of certainty. When confidence constantly depends on reactions from others, it signals that the person has not fully accepted their own worth. Instead of appearing strong, they appear uncertain, even when they possess remarkable talents or a kind heart. Confidence loses its impact whenever it must be confirmed by someone else first. This pattern begins much earlier than most people expect. During childhood, praise teaches valuable lessons and helps build healthy self-esteem. Over time, however, something changes. Adults who continue depending on praise for every important decision slowly hand control of their emotions to everyone around them. A compliment creates happiness. Silence creates doubt. Criticism creates anxiety. Suddenly, Peace depends on other people's opinions instead of personal values. That is a dangerous place to live because opinions change every day. Someone who admires you today may ignore you tomorrow for reasons that have nothing to do with your character. If your confidence rises and falls with every reaction, life becomes emotionally exhausting. Your identity begins to shift according to whoever happens to be watching. Psychologists describe a healthier alternative called internal validation. This means your sense of worth comes primarily from your own values, effort, and integrity instead of constant outside approval. Internal validation does not mean ignoring feedback or pretending nobody else's opinion matters. Wise people still listen, learn, and improve. The difference is that feedback becomes information rather than permission. They evaluate criticism carefully instead of accepting every judgment as truth. They celebrate progress because they know how much work happened behind the scenes, even if nobody else noticed. Their confidence grows from keeping promises to themselves rather than collecting applause from others. This creates emotional stability because self-respect becomes rooted in actions instead of popularity. People often underestimate how quickly others notice this difference. Emotionally secure individuals carry themselves differently without trying to create an impression. Their conversations feel relaxed because they are not searching for constant approval. They listen with genuine interest instead of waiting for praise. They admit mistakes without feeling destroyed by them, because one failure does not define their identity. They remain calm during disagreement because they do not believe every difference in opinion threatens their value. This quiet stability creates trust. Others feel comfortable around someone who does not need endless reassurance. Calm confidence spreads through body language, tone of voice, and everyday decisions more clearly than carefully chosen words ever could. Trying too hard usually produces the opposite effect. Someone desperate to prove intelligence often talks without listening. Someone desperate to prove kindness struggles to set healthy boundaries. Someone desperate to prove success constantly reminds everyone about achievements. Ironically, every extra attempt to convince people creates more questions than answers. Human psychology naturally becomes curious when confidence appears effortless. Constant self-promotion, just hidden insecurity, because genuine ability rarely needs endless advertising. A tree heavy with fruit does not spend its energy proving that it is alive. Its results quietly speak for themselves. The same principle appears in human behavior. Quiet competence attracts respect because people discover value through experience instead of persuasion. This explains why emotionally secure people often seem more attractive, whether in friendships, professional environments, or personal relationships. Attraction extends far beyond physical appearance. Stability creates a feeling of safety. Consistency builds reliability. Someone who remains grounded during pressure becomes easier to trust because their behavior stays predictable, even when circumstances change. People naturally move toward individuals who create emotional peace instead of emotional chaos. That peaceful presence cannot be copied through clever words or confident poses. It develops through repeated moments of choosing self-respect over approval and personal growth over public recognition. Every decision becomes a chance to strengthen this mindset. Speaking honestly even when agreement feels easier. Walking away from unhealthy situations without begging for acceptance. Accepting that every person will never understand your choices. Keeping commitments because they reflect your standards rather than somebody else's expectations. These moments slowly reshape identity from the inside. Confidence stops depending on applause and begins growing from integrity. Before others value your presence, you must stop questioning your own. One of the strongest forms of influence is almost invisible. It does not come from speaking the loudest, winning every argument, or showing dominance in every situation. It comes from staying calm when everyone else expects an emotional reaction. This kind of calmness is often misunderstood as weakness because it lacks drama. In reality, it requires tremendous inner strength. Human emotions are powerful, and they can rise within seconds after criticism, rejection, disrespect, or unexpected challenges. Most people react immediately because the brain is designed to protect itself from perceived threats. A harsh comment can trigger anger. A disagreement can create defensiveness. A disappointment can produce frustration before logic has a chance to step in. Emotional self-regulation interrupts this automatic cycle. Instead of allowing emotions to take control, it creates a brief pause where thoughtful decisions become possible. That small pause changes everything because it gives reason the opportunity to lead instead of impulse. Psychologists describe emotional self-regulation as the ability to recognize feelings without becoming controlled by them. This does not mean suppressing emotions or pretending they do not exist. Healthy emotional regulation allows feelings to be acknowledged while choosing the most effective response. Anger may still appear, disappointment may still hurt, and fear may still exist. Yet those emotions no longer dictate behavior. A person who masters this skill understands that every feeling carries information, though every feeling does not deserve immediate action. That distinction separates emotional maturity from emotional impulsiveness. It also explains why calm individuals often make better long-term decisions. They allow emotions to settle before choosing words or actions that cannot easily be taken back. The difference between reacting and responding may seem small, yet it changes the direction of countless relationships. A reaction happens almost instantly. It is driven by emotion and usually seeks immediate relief. Raising a voice, sending an angry message, making a harsh accusation, or walking away without thinking often provides temporary satisfaction while creating lasting consequences. A response follows a different path. It begins with awareness. Instead of asking, "How do I feel right now?" emotionally regulated people also ask, "What outcome do I want?" That simple shift changes the purpose of communication. Rather than proving a point or winning a moment, they focus on protecting the relationship, solving the problem, or maintaining personal integrity. Their actions become intentional rather than emotional. This ability quietly changes the way people interact with them. Emotional unpredictability creates uncertainty because nobody knows which version of a person will appear each day. One conversation feels warm and encouraging. The next feels hostile over something insignificant. Living around constant emotional swings becomes exhausting because everyone starts walking carefully, trying to avoid the next outburst. Calm individuals create the opposite experience. Their reactions remain steady across different situations. Success does not make them arrogant. Failure does not destroy their confidence. Criticism does not immediately become conflict. Praise does not inflate their ego. This consistency builds trust because people feel safe around someone whose behavior remains balanced even under pressure. Trust grows through repeated experiences rather than impressive speeches. Every calm response sends a subtle message that says, "You can rely on me because my emotions do not control my decisions." Colleagues begin asking for advice during difficult situations. Friends become more comfortable sharing personal struggles. Family members feel less anxious during disagreements because they know conversations will remain respectful. Leadership often develops from this quiet reliability rather than loud authority. People naturally follow those who remain composed when everyone else feels overwhelmed. Calmness creates emotional stability for the entire group because steady behavior encourages others to slow down as well. Another powerful change happens beneath the surface. Emotional manipulation becomes far less effective. Some people intentionally provoke anger, guilt, jealousy, or fear because emotional reactions are easier to control than thoughtful decisions. A person who quickly loses emotional balance can often be pushed toward choices they later regret. Calm individuals interrupt this pattern. They recognize emotional pressure before acting upon it. Instead of allowing someone else to decide their emotional state, they remain connected to their own values and judgment. This does not eliminate conflict, though it prevents conflict from controlling them. Manipulation loses much of its power when emotional reactions become less predictable. Calmness also changes social dynamics in subtle ways. During disagreements, people often expect immediate defense or emotional resistance. When those reactions never arrive, the entire conversation shifts. Aggressive behavior loses momentum because it receives less emotional fuel. Gossip loses impact because calm people rarely rush to defend every rumor. Arguments become shorter because one side refuses to escalate tension. Others begin paying closer attention because measured words often carry greater weight than emotional speeches. Quiet confidence gradually replaces the need for constant explanation. Developing emotional self-regulation takes consistent practice rather than natural talent. Every difficult conversation becomes an opportunity to strengthen patience. Every disappointment becomes a chance to choose perspective instead of panic. Every moment of frustration becomes training for greater self-control. Over time, this discipline reshapes how others respond to you. Once people realize they cannot control your emotions, they begin respecting your decisions. Discipline is one of the rarest qualities a person can develop because it asks for something that comfort never will. It asks for action even when excitement disappears. Almost everyone feels motivated after watching an inspiring speech, reading a powerful book, or setting a new goal. Energy feels high, confidence rises, and the future seems clear. Then ordinary life returns. The alarm clock rings early. Work becomes repetitive. Progress slows down. Results remain invisible for weeks or even months. This is the moment when motivation quietly fades away. Most people stop because they depended on emotion to carry them forward. Discipline follows a completely different path. It continues moving long after motivation has left. That is why disciplined people slowly become rare. They keep showing up while everyone else waits for the perfect feeling to return. One of the clearest signs of discipline is the ability to keep promises made to yourself. Breaking a promise to another person usually creates guilt because someone else is affected. Breaking a promise to yourself often feels easier because nobody else sees it happen. Skipping one workout, delaying one important task, or postponing one personal goal may seem insignificant in isolation. Yet each broken promise quietly sends a message to your own mind. It says that your commitments can be ignored whenever comfort becomes more attractive. Over time, this weakens self-trust. Confidence begins to disappear because confidence grows from evidence. Every time you follow through on your word, even during difficult moments, your mind gathers proof that you are dependable. Eventually, you stop wondering whether you can handle challenges because your daily actions have already answered that question. This is why routines matter so much. Successful people rarely rely on emotional excitement to guide important decisions. Instead, they remove unnecessary choices by creating habits that repeat automatically. A routine reduces the need for constant willpower because certain behaviors become part of daily life. Reading every morning, exercising several times each week, learning a new skill after work, or setting aside time for quiet reflection gradually becomes normal instead of difficult. These actions may appear ordinary from the outside, yet their cumulative effect is extraordinary. Tiny improvements repeated over hundreds of days create abilities that cannot be built through occasional bursts of effort. The greatest transformations often begin with routines that seem almost too simple to matter. Consistency produces something that talent alone cannot provide. A talented person who works only when inspired will often fall behind someone with average ability who practices every single day. Human psychology tends to admire dramatic success while overlooking the quiet discipline that created it. People see confidence without seeing years of preparation. They notice expertise without seeing thousands of small decisions that built it. This creates the illusion that exceptional people simply possess natural gifts. In reality, consistent effort usually plays the greater role. Excellence is rarely created through one remarkable moment. It is built through ordinary days repeated with extraordinary commitment. Another reason discipline increases personal value is reliability. Reliability has become surprisingly uncommon because modern life offers endless distractions and constant opportunities to postpone meaningful work. A reliable person finishes responsibilities even when nobody is watching. Deadlines are respected. Commitments are honored. Responsibilities are handled without endless reminders. Friends, colleagues, and family members quickly notice this pattern because dependable behavior reduces uncertainty. People naturally trust someone whose actions consistently match their words. Trust becomes stronger with every promise fulfilled, making disciplined individuals valuable in every environment they enter. This reliability also explains why disciplined people often become respected leaders. Leadership extends far beyond titles or authority. True leadership begins when others believe they can depend on your judgment and your actions. During stressful situations, people look for stability rather than perfection. They pay attention to the individual who remains focused instead of becoming overwhelmed. Discipline creates that stability because repeated practice develops confidence rooted in experience, rather than emotion. A disciplined leader stays committed to long-term goals, even when temporary setbacks appear. That steady example encourages others to remain committed as well. Psychologists describe one of the most important foundations of discipline as delayed gratification. This concept refers to choosing a greater reward in the future instead of immediate pleasure in the present. Although this sounds simple, it challenges one of the strongest tendencies of human nature. The brain naturally seeks comfort because comfort feels safe and rewarding. Resting feels easier than exercising. Entertainment feels easier than studying. Spending money feels easier than saving it. Avoiding difficult conversations feels easier than resolving them. Every day presents these quiet decisions between short-term satisfaction and long-term growth. People who consistently choose future rewards slowly create lives that appear effortless from the outside. Their health improves because they accepted temporary discomfort. Their knowledge expands because they continued learning while others stopped. Their financial stability grows because they resisted unnecessary impulses. Their relationships become stronger because they invested time and attention instead of seeking constant convenience. None of these results appear overnight. They accumulate gradually, almost invisibly, until one day the difference becomes impossible to ignore. While others wonder where their success came from, the answer has been unfolding through disciplined choices made long before anyone noticed. Time is one of the few resources that can never be replaced. Money can be earned again, opportunities can return, and skills can be learned at any stage of life. Yet every hour that passes is gone forever. Even with this truth, countless people give their time away as though it has endless value. They answer every message immediately, accept every invitation, interrupt meaningful work for every notification, and make themselves available whenever someone asks. At first, this behavior may appear generous and caring. Over time, however, it often produces the opposite effect. When your time always seems unlimited, people gradually begin treating it as something ordinary. Psychology has long shown that people naturally place greater value on things that appear limited. This pattern influences everyday decisions more than most people realize. Whether it involves products, opportunities, or relationships, scarcity increases perceived importance, because the possibility of losing access makes people pay closer attention. This does not mean becoming cold, distant, or intentionally difficult to reach. Genuine value never grows through games or emotional manipulation. The real difference lies in intentional availability. Emotionally healthy people choose where their time goes, instead of allowing everyone else to make that decision for them. They understand that saying yes to every request usually means saying no to something equally important. Every unnecessary distraction quietly steals attention from personal growth, meaningful relationships, important responsibilities, or simple moments of peace. Instead of reacting to every demand, they pause and ask whether a request truly deserves their energy. That small habit gradually changes the way others perceive them, because their attention becomes purposeful rather than automatic. Constant availability can also create an unexpected psychological pattern. When someone always responds immediately, always changes plans to accommodate others, and always places another person's needs before their own, people slowly begin expecting that behavior. Appreciation fades because unlimited access becomes normal. Expectations quietly replace gratitude. This happens in friendships, romantic relationships, workplaces, and even families. A person who never protects personal time often discovers that others stop recognizing the sacrifice involved. Human beings naturally adapt to repeated experiences. Something that once felt special eventually feels ordinary when it is always available. Healthy boundaries prevent this pattern from taking control. A boundary is not a wall built to keep people away. It is a clear understanding of what protects your well-being, your priorities, and your peace of mind. Healthy boundaries allow kindness without self-neglect. They allow generosity without exhaustion. Someone with strong boundaries can offer support while still protecting personal responsibilities. They can decline invitations without feeling guilty. They can delay responses while focusing on meaningful work. They understand that respecting their own limits allows them to show up fully when they truly choose to be present. This creates stronger relationships because interactions become genuine instead of driven by obligation. Emotional distance is completely different. Emotional distance often grows from fear, unresolved pain, or avoidance. It keeps people disconnected even when closeness would be healthy. Boundaries, on the other hand, make genuine connections stronger because they remove resentment and emotional burnout. A person who constantly sacrifices personal needs eventually becomes tired, frustrated, and emotionally drained. That exhaustion quietly enters conversations and relationships. Someone who protects their energy remains more patient, more present, and more emotionally available during moments that truly matter. Quality begins replacing quantity. Attention has become one of the most valuable forms of currency in modern life. Every device, advertisement, notification, and endless stream of information competes for the same limited resource. Hours disappear through small interruptions that seem harmless in the moment. A quick glance at a notification becomes 20 minutes of scrolling. A brief distraction breaks concentration and makes meaningful work far more difficult to complete. Psychologists have found that repeatedly shifting attention reduces focus and increases mental fatigue. The brain performs best when it can remain engaged with one meaningful task instead of constantly changing direction. People who understand this begin protecting their attention with the same seriousness that others protect money or possessions. They reduce unnecessary distractions because they recognize that focused attention creates better thinking, stronger creativity, and wiser decisions. Energy follows attention. Whatever consistently receives your focus gradually shapes your emotions, your habits, and your future. Giving endless attention to negativity increases stress. Giving attention to learning expands knowledge. Giving attention to meaningful relationships strengthens trust. Giving attention to personal growth creates lasting confidence. Every day becomes a series of quiet choices about where your energy will flow. Those choices eventually become your life. The scarcity principle explains why these decisions carry such influence. Scarcity does not create value from nothing. It reveals value by reminding people that access is limited. Time spent with purpose carries greater meaning than time given without thought. Attention offered with intention feels more genuine than attention scattered everywhere. People notice your value more when your time is intentionally spent, not endlessly offered. Real value is built on something far stronger than appearance, popularity, or the ability to impress people for a few moments. Those things can attract attention, but attention fades quickly when it is unsupported by genuine ability. Skills, knowledge, and competence create a different kind of value because they continue producing results long after first impressions disappear. This is why some people remain respected in every environment they enter. Their reputation does not depend on charisma alone. It grows from consistently solving, making wise decisions, and contributing something meaningful wherever they go. Human psychology naturally trusts people who repeatedly demonstrate capability. Confidence may open a door, but competence is what keeps it open over time. One of the most powerful habits behind lasting competence is continuous learning. The world changes faster than ever before. New technology appears, industries evolve, and information that seemed complete yesterday can become outdated tomorrow. People who stop learning slowly become less adaptable because they continue relying on knowledge that no longer matches reality. Those who remain curious develop an entirely different mindset. They read, observe, ask thoughtful questions, and remain willing to admit that they still have more to learn. This willingness is often misunderstood as uncertainty, yet it is actually a sign of intellectual strength. People who believe they already know everything usually stop growing. Those who accept that learning never truly ends continue expanding their abilities year after year. Continuous learning also changes the way challenges are viewed. Instead of seeing problems as threats, skilled individuals often see opportunities to improve. Every difficult project teaches a new lesson. Every mistake reveals an area that can become stronger. Every unexpected obstacle forces creative thinking. This mindset removes the fear of looking imperfect, because growth becomes more important than protecting an image. Instead of asking, "How can I avoid failure?" they begin asking, "What can this experience teach me?" That single change creates remarkable progress over time, because every setback becomes another source of knowledge rather than a reason to quit. Dependability strengthens competence even further. Knowledge alone is valuable, though knowledge combined with reliability becomes exceptionally rare. A highly skilled person who disappears during important moments eventually loses trust. Meanwhile, someone who consistently delivers quality work earns confidence from everyone around them. Dependability means people know they can count on you without constant reminders. Responsibilities are completed carefully. Commitments are respected. Problems receive attention instead of excuses. This steady behavior creates peace because uncertainty disappears. Friends rely on dependable people. Employers promote dependable people. Teams naturally follow dependable people because reliability reduces unnecessary stress and confusion. The ability to solve difficult problems quietly separates ordinary performance from extraordinary value. Every organization, family, friendship, and community eventually faces challenges that require clear thinking. Some people immediately focus on blame. Others focus on obstacles. Highly competent individuals usually focus on solutions. They remain calm while gathering information. They study the situation before making decisions. Instead of becoming overwhelmed by complexity, they divide large problems into smaller parts that can be managed one step at a time. This practical mindset makes them valuable because people remember those who reduce chaos rather than increase it. The person who consistently finds solutions becomes difficult to replace regardless of the environment. Mastery develops through thousands of repeated improvements rather than dramatic breakthroughs. Psychologists often describe mastery as the gradual process of refining skills until they become deeply integrated into everyday performance. This process requires patience because meaningful progress is rarely visible from one day to the next. Small improvements accumulate slowly. A musician practices scales long before performing beautifully. A writer produces countless pages before creating work that feels effortless. A craftsman repeats simple techniques until precision becomes automatic. Every field follows the same principle. Quiet repetition creates extraordinary ability, even when outsiders notice only the final result. One of the most interesting qualities shared by highly skilled people is their relationship with recognition. Those who truly master their craft often spend less time talking about it. They understand that reputation built through actions lasts far longer than reputation built through self-promotion. Their confidence comes from experience rather than applause. They do not feel pressured to convince everyone of their value because consistent results eventually speak on their behalf. This does not mean they lack pride in their work. Instead, they trust that genuine excellence becomes visible without constant advertisement. Their attention stays focused on improving the quality of what they create instead of managing other people's opinions about it. This quiet approach often surprises those who expect confidence to appear loud and dramatic. Real confidence rarely needs endless proof because it already has evidence. Every completed project, every solved problem, every promise fulfilled, and every lesson learned quietly strengthens it. Others begin recognizing this pattern without being told. Respect grows naturally because people experience the value directly instead of hearing claims about it. Over time, competence becomes a language of its own, understood through actions far more clearly than through words, allowing skill, reliability, and mastery to leave an impression that no amount of self-promotion can ever match. One of the most overlooked advantages in human interaction is the ability to observe before speaking. Modern life encourages constant expression. People are expected to respond immediately, share every opinion, and fill every quiet moment with conversation. Yet the individuals who often understand a situation best are usually the ones who spend more time watching than talking. Observation gathers information that words alone can never reveal. A person's tone of voice, facial expressions, body language, timing, and choice of words all communicate something deeper than the conversation itself. Someone may say they are fine while their posture, eye contact, and energy quietly tell a completely different story. Those who slow down long enough to notice these details develop stronger judgment because their understanding comes from the full picture rather than the surface alone. Listening is one of the first skills that separates emotionally intelligent people from everyone else. Genuine listening goes far beyond waiting for another person to finish speaking. It means paying attention without mentally preparing the next response. It means allowing someone to express thoughts completely before offering advice or disagreement. Most people listen with the intention of replying. Socially intelligent people listen with the intention of understanding. That difference changes every conversation. People naturally trust someone who makes them feel heard because being understood satisfies one of the deepest human needs. When individuals feel respected, they often become more honest, more cooperative, and more willing to share information that they would otherwise keep hidden. This patient approach also makes it easier to recognize emotions that remain unspoken. Human feelings rarely exist only in words. Stress often appears through restless movement. Frustration can hide behind forced smiles. Confidence may reveal itself through relaxed posture instead of loud speech. Fear sometimes appears through hesitation rather than direct admission. Reading emotions accurately requires attention rather than assumptions. Social intelligence grows stronger when people stop judging conversations solely by what is said and begin noticing how it is said. This deeper awareness reduces misunderstandings because reactions become based on observation instead of guesswork. Understanding motivation adds another important layer to this skill. Every action usually has a reason beneath the surface. Someone seeking constant recognition may actually be searching for acceptance. A person who becomes defensive during simple conversations may be protecting hidden insecurity. Another individual who appears distant may be carrying emotional burdens that remain invisible to everyone else. Socially intelligent people become curious about these underlying motivations instead of reacting only to visible behavior. Curiosity creates empathy without removing personal boundaries. It allows someone to respond wisely because they recognize that actions often reflect internal struggles rather than simple personality traits. This perspective also reduces unnecessary conflict. Arguments often become larger because people react to emotional triggers instead of examining the real issue. A careless comment may create anger, followed by another emotional response, until the original problem disappears beneath growing frustration. Observation interrupts this cycle. Instead of immediately defending pride or proving a point, socially intelligent individuals pause long enough to ask themselves why the conversation is becoming tense. They consider whether the disagreement truly deserves their energy. They recognize that every opinion does not require correction, and every criticism does not require defense. Some conversations create growth, while others simply waste emotional resources. Knowing the difference becomes a powerful form of wisdom. Choosing silence at the right moment is another skill that often surprises people. Silence is frequently mistaken for uncertainty because society associates confidence with constant speaking. In reality, thoughtful silence can communicate remarkable self-control. A person who remains composed during criticism often appears stronger than someone who reacts immediately. Someone who carefully considers an answer before speaking usually sounds more credible than someone who fills every pause with unnecessary words. Silence creates space for reflection. It allows emotions to settle and thoughtful responses to emerge. It also encourages other people to continue speaking, revealing valuable information they might never have shared if the conversation had been interrupted. Confident individuals rarely feel pressured to dominate every discussion. They understand that influence comes from the quality of their words rather than the quantity. When they speak, people pay closer attention because their contributions are measured and meaningful. Their opinions carry greater weight because they are offered with intention instead of impulse. This habit gradually shapes how others perceive them. They become known as thoughtful, balanced, and trustworthy because their communications reflects careful judgment rather than emotional urgency. Social intelligence grows through countless small moments of awareness. Every conversation becomes an opportunity to notice patterns, understand emotions, recognize hidden motivations, and choose responses that strengthen relationships instead of weakening them. Speaking less creates room for deeper observation, and deeper observation leads to wiser decisions that quietly increase influence in every area of life. One of the greatest shifts in personal growth begins when fear stops controlling relationships. Fear of losing people can quietly influence decisions long before anyone notices it. It encourages someone to stay silent when honesty is needed, accept disrespect to avoid conflict, or constantly seek reassurance that everything is still fine. These behaviors usually come from a sincere desire to protect important relationships, yet they often create the opposite result. When every decision is driven by fear of abandonment, confidence slowly disappears and authenticity becomes harder to maintain. People begin adjusting their personality, opinions, and boundaries simply to avoid being left behind. Over time, they lose sight of who they truly are, because so much energy is spent becoming whoever they believe others want them to be. This is where the difference between attachment and dependence becomes important. Healthy attachment allows people to care deeply while still maintaining their own identity. It creates connection without sacrificing individuality. Emotional dependence follows a different path. It places personal happiness almost entirely in another person's hands. Their approval determines confidence. Their attention determines emotional stability. Their absence creates overwhelming anxiety. This kind of dependence places enormous pressure on relationships because one person becomes responsible for meeting emotional needs that should never belong entirely to someone else. Even the strongest relationship struggles under that weight because no individual can provide constant reassurance every moment of every day. Psychologists often describe secure attachment as one of the healthiest relationship patterns. Securely attached people value closeness, trust, and emotional connection, yet they also understand that their worth exists independently of any single relationship. They enjoy spending time with people they care about, though they do not lose themselves in the process. They can express affection without becoming controlling. They can handle temporary distance without assuming rejection. They communicate openly because honesty feels safer than constant guessing. This emotional stability creates stronger bonds because trust replaces fear as the foundation of the relationship. Emotional independence changes relationship dynamics in subtle but powerful ways. Conversations become more honest because people no longer feel forced to agree with everything, simply to keep someone happy. Boundaries become healthier because saying no longer feels like risking the entire relationship. Decisions become guided by personal values instead of constant anxiety about disappointing others. This creates a sense of authenticity that people naturally respect. Others know they are interacting with someone who speaks sincerely rather than someone who constantly adjusts to gain approval. Genuine connection becomes possible because both people are choosing the relationship instead of desperately clinging to it. Accepting that not everyone will remain part of your life is another step that requires emotional maturity. Life naturally changes through different seasons. Friendships evolve. Careers create new directions. Families experience transitions. Some relationships become stronger, while others slowly fade, despite good intentions from both sides. Trying to prevent every ending often creates unnecessary suffering, because change is part of every human experience. Acceptance does not remove sadness when meaningful relationships end, though it prevents fear from controlling every decision beforehand. Emotionally independent people understand that losing a relationship does not erase their value as individuals. They allow themselves to grieve while continuing to move forward with dignity and self-respect. This perspective also changes the energy people bring into relationships. Desperation quietly disappears. Instead of asking, "How can I make this person stay?" the question becomes, "How can I build a relationship that is healthy for both of us?" That shift removes pressure from every interaction. Conversations feel lighter because they are no longer driven by hidden anxiety. Affection becomes genuine rather than strategic. Kindness comes from character instead of fear. These small differences are often noticed without anyone consciously realizing why. People generally feel more comfortable around someone who offers connection freely rather than demanding constant reassurance in return. Respect also grows in a different way when relationships are based on choice instead of need. Choice reflects freedom. It communicates that both people remain together because they genuinely appreciate each other's presence. Need often carries emotional pressure because leaving feels impossible rather than undesirable. Relationships built on freedom tend to become stronger because appreciation remains alive. Time together feels intentional. Support feels voluntary. Loyalty grows through shared values instead of obligation. Each person contributes because they want to, not because fear leaves them with no alternative. As emotional independence develops, confidence begins resting on something much more stable than another person's approval. Personal identity becomes rooted in values, character, and consistent actions instead of external reassurance. This quiet confidence influences every relationship because people recognize the difference between someone who seeks constant validation and someone who simply enjoys meaningful connection. Ironically, People often value your presence more when they know you can walk away peacefully if necessary. The people who leave the strongest impression are rarely the ones who spend the most time talking about themselves. They do not feel the need to remind everyone of their achievements, announce every success, or constantly prove their importance. Their confidence is visible long before they speak because it comes from something much deeper than public recognition. Genuine confidence has a quiet quality that cannot be copied through appearance or carefully chosen words. It develops through experience, discipline, and a clear understanding of personal values. This kind of confidence does not seek attention, because it does not depend on attention to survive. It remains steady whether people are watching or whether nobody notices at all. Confidence is often misunderstood as being loud, dominant, or always having the last word. In reality, those behaviors can sometimes hide insecurity rather than strength. A person who constantly interrupts conversations, refuses to admit mistakes, or feels the need to win every disagreement may actually be protecting a fragile sense of self-worth. Authentic confidence behaves differently. It allows someone to listen without feeling threatened by another opinion. It allows them to admit when they do not know something, because learning matters more than appearing perfect. It gives them the patience to let others receive recognition without becoming jealous. This quiet security creates a sense of calm that people naturally trust because it feels genuine rather than performed. Humility plays an important role in this process. Humility does not mean thinking less of yourself or pretending your abilities do not exist. It means seeing yourself clearly without exaggerating strengths or hiding weaknesses. Truly competent people understand that every achievement is part of a much longer journey. No matter how much they learn, another lesson always waits ahead. This awareness keeps curiosity alive because they never assume growth has ended. At the same time, humility makes them approachable. Others feel comfortable asking questions, sharing ideas, or admitting mistakes because they know they will receive respect instead of judgment. Confidence supported by humility creates influence that feels natural because it encourages trust rather than intimidation. Competence strengthens humility instead of competing with it. People who invest years developing real skills usually understand how much effort true mastery requires. They recognize the value of patience, practice, and continuous improvement because they have experienced the learning process themselves. They become more understanding toward others who are still developing. This balance between ability and modesty creates a powerful reputation. Their work earns admiration, while their character earns lasting respect. People remember how they made others feel just as much as they remember what they accomplished. Another difference appears in the way confident people approach everyday life. They focus on consistency instead of performance. Performance seeks temporary attention. It often appears during moments when people know they are being watched. Consistency continues regardless of the audience. A person with authentic confidence behaves with integrity during private moments just as they do in public. They keep promises even when breaking them would be easy. They remain respectful even when frustration rises. They continue improving even after receiving praise. Their behavior does not change dramatically according to who happens to be present because their standards come from within rather than from outside expectations. This steady pattern gradually shapes reputation. Reputation is rarely created through one impressive achievement or one inspiring speech. It grows through repeated experiences that allow people to predict your character. Someone who behaves honestly once receives appreciation. Someone who behaves honestly for years earns trust. One act of kindness creates a pleasant memory. Consistent kindness creates a dependable identity. The brain naturally looks for patterns, because patterns help people decide whom they can rely upon. Every repeated action becomes another piece of evidence that strengthens or weakens your reputation. Small daily choices eventually become more influential than occasional extraordinary moments, because consistency removes uncertainty. Authentic confidence also changes the way people respond during difficult situations. When challenges appear, emotionally secure individuals usually remain grounded because their identity is not built on temporary success. Failure becomes information rather than personal defeat. Criticism becomes an opportunity for reflection instead of an attack on self-worth. Success becomes motivation to continue growing rather than proof of superiority. This balanced perspective keeps emotions steady and decisions clear even when circumstances become unpredictable. Others notice this stability because calm behavior during pressure often reveals true character more clearly than comfort ever could. As time passes, actions quietly begin speaking louder than explanations. People no longer rely on promises because they have already seen consistent behavior. They stop wondering whether they can trust you because experience has answered the question repeatedly. Every honest conversation, every commitment fulfilled, every respectful decision, and every disciplined habit adds another layer to a reputation that cannot be manufactured overnight. Authentic confidence grows stronger through these repeated moments, allowing character, competence, and integrity to become the lasting impression people carry long after individual words have been forgotten. The greatest transformations rarely begin with changing other people. They begin with changing the standards you set for yourself. Real value grows when you stop chasing validation and start trusting your own judgment. It grows when you learn to control your emotions instead of allowing your emotions to control you. It grows through discipline, through protecting your time and attention, through developing skills that make you genuinely useful, through listening more than speaking, and through becoming emotionally independent enough to choose relationships instead of depending on them. Day after day, these quiet habits shape the kind of person people naturally respect and remember. Your reputation is never built by one impressive moment. It is built by countless ordinary moments where your actions consistently match your values. The people who are the hardest to replace are rarely the loudest, the richest, or the most popular. They are the people who stay calm under pressure, keep their promises, protect their boundaries, continue learning, and improve even when nobody is watching. Their confidence does not come from applause. Their influence does not come from force. Their value comes from character, discipline, emotional stability, and competence. That is why respect follows them naturally. They never have to demand it because they have already earned it through the way they live every single day. Now it is your turn. Which principle from this video do you believe will make the biggest difference in your life? Share your answer in the comments because your perspective may inspire someone else to begin their own journey of growth. If you found these psychological insights valuable, please like this video. It helps our channel reach more people who want to build real confidence, emotional strength, and lasting influence. Subscribe to our channel for more videos on psychology, self-mastery, emotional intelligence, and human behavior. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video.